All right, guys, I'm hyped for this. If you've been following my channel here for a couple of months, we've been running through the Judas Priest album reviews. We finally made it through all 18, and we're hopping in with these rankings here. And by the way, we got kind of a, if you're gonna notice, we got better video quality today. Sadly, it'll probably just be for today because I'm having to, my phone's on the charge still, and I wanted to knock this out. So we're, I'm using my mom's phone right now, and her camera quality is a lot better. But that's, anyways, you know, we'll go back to my crappy camera after this. Don't worry, guys. Anyways, we're hopping in with rank number 18, my least favorite Priest album out of the entire discography. 2001's Demolition. And now, man, this thing is a problem, okay? I don't have a problem with Tim the Ripper Owens so much as just the direction in which they took this album. I mean, too much experimenting on one album for me, and they got this weird Alice in Chains type vocal harmonies trying to go on, which shouldn't be done. Doesn't sound like Priest at all. There's probably 2 or 3 good songs on here. I've all 13. I mean, Machine Man ain't bad. One on One is actually an awesome song. Maybe could have been on Juggy Later or something, but Bloodsuckers ain't too bad. And then, you know, some of the other songs that are like, you think they're going to be good, they just ruin it. Like, you know, they'll get to a part where it's like, oh, and it's just sad, you know. But anyways, Demolition, awful album. Then we've got, no, it's not the other Owens album. Number 17, we've got 2008's Nostradamus. Boy, oh boy, do we have a problem with this one. One of the worst things an album can be is boring to me, okay? And this thing is one of the most boring albums I've ever heard in my life. That's how you know we've got some problems here. I mean, there's interludes filled with it. It's a double album, a concept album. I like the concept. I think the whole Nostradamus thing's pretty cool, but they repeat like a lot of, like, I can't even count how many times they say Nostradamus. It's insane. But I mean, the tracks like The Prophecy, that's a really good track. And then you've got The Future of Mankind's a good way to end it. And then you just kind of get lost in the shuffle and bored throughout the majority of the middle of it. With all them interludes, it's like, man. So yeah, this album I mean, feel free to give it a listen, but I mean, you're going to be stuck listening to it for like an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40, something like that. But anyways, we'll hop into some albums. Those are really the only like terrible ones for me. Rank number 16, we got their first album, A Rolla. You know, back in the day, I mean, I used to have this at like the bottom. But you know, whenever I gave this thing another listen, while, you know, reviewing these, I discovered I kind of like it. It's pretty good. I mean, it's not your typical Priest sound, like your heavy metal. The band hadn't really delved into that just yet, but it's a solid rock album. I love, you know, One for the Road and the title track, A Rolla. The whole Winter, Deep Freeze, Winter Retreat, and then Cheater, that big 9-minute part song. That's a really cool prog moment on this album. Then I like Never Satisfied. So this is not a bad album. You know, I definitely suggest to maybe give it a listen or give it a re-listen and just kind of appreciate it for what it is, because that's what I kind of had to do. I went into it, of course, thinking, oh, this is, I hope I hear the heavy metal Priest or like something at least heavier, like some of their later 70s stuff. But, you know, I go into it knowing what it's going to be, and I genuinely dig this album. Anyways, album number 15. Now, it also gets a lot of hate, but I do dig it. Juggy Later, 1997's Juggy Later, Tim the Ripper Owens' first album with the band. And, you know, this follows, you know, kind of the Painkiller sound of the really fast drums of Scott Travis and the really heavy riffs and fast solos and the screeching vocals. And, you know, I think Tim the Ripper Owens is a great vocalist. Obviously, I prefer Halford in the band, you know, over him. But I do appreciate, like, this album. I mean, you got stuff like the title track, Juggy Later. Then you got Burn in Hell's awesome. The Cathedral Spires, that 9-minute and 17-second epic at the very end of the album is incredible. That's like an awesome track, probably the best track off here. You know, you've also got, you know, Dead Meat and Bloodstain thrown in there. So there's some good stuff on here. I definitely suggest, you know, kind of keeping an open mind and maybe giving this thing a listen, because it's definitely a solid album. Anyways, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14 here. 1981's Point of Entry. And this album, it kind of was thrown in between 2 heavier albums. And this one, it seems kind of like, you know, pun intended here, the fork in the road, you know, because I think they didn't really know if they wanted to continue down that heavy metal path like on British Steel. And maybe they were like, let's try this again here. And then of course, right after this, Screaming for Vengeance. So 2 major successes. This one's kind of thrown in the middle. But I do genuinely like this album. Heading Out to the Highway's all right. Not a big fan of it. Definitely sounds like something, like there's like elements of rock and roll on this thing. And that's one of them. Hot Rockin's good. I like Turning Circles, and Desert Plains is one of the best songs by Priest, period. I love that track. Just kind of chugs along. Solar Angels is awesome. You know, there's some really good stuff on here. It is, again, kind of a weird album. Kind of gets lost in their discography, I think, by a lot of people. But I definitely suggest giving it a listen. It's got some good stuff on it. Let's see. Just trying not to get out of order here. 18, 17, 16, 15, 14. So 13. We've got, this one's a controversy here, but I'm not just doing it to try to be controversial. This is just where I throw it. 1980s British Steel. Yeah, you know, I do have some problems with this album. I do dig it. This is a solid album. I'm not hating on it or anything, but I think it's kind of a mixed bag here. You've got, you know, Breaking the Law, which is a big hit, but I do dig it. You know, I don't listen to it often at all, but when I put this thing on and hear Breaking the Law, I'm not complaining. I can get into it. And you've got Rapid Fire, which is incredible. Metal Gods. I mean, come on, such a great song. Grinder, another great heavy one. But then United comes in and gets a little corny. Living After Midnight, I've never really liked that song. You've got, and then just, you know, some of that other Slide 2 stuff just kind of drags on. So I think this one's kind of half good and half lackluster to me. But I get it, you know, it's the album that kind of broke them big. I mean, I've seen it a lot of times at people's #1, and I get that. You know, maybe it's nostalgia, maybe they just genuinely like some of the songs I don't like on there, but that's cool too, you know. Some of the tracks on here I just can't really get into. But I do definitely appreciate this album and think it's a damn good album. Now we've got 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. Sorry, I just don't want to get out of order on this thing. There's a lot of them. 12. Their third album, Sin After Sin. Man, and these are some that I think are just really good. I wouldn't call them like a masterpiece or anything, but these are like some great albums now that we're getting into. And this is definitely one of them. I've always loved this album. I mean, man, the track Center that opens up, that's like a prog. Oh, that's prog greatness right there. Then you got their cover of Diamonds and Rust. Man, they just kill it. And Starbreaker. Last Rose of Summer is a little slow, but it's all right. Dissident Aggressor, which, you know, for the longest time, I didn't know that this was, when Slayer did it, they covered it. But so whenever I heard it on here, I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, man. And of course, they kill it, as it's their original song. But this is a really cool album cover, really dark and proggy, heavy album. Really followed suit, you know, as far as following that path that Sad Wings of Destiny set. But this is an awesome album that I highly suggest to anybody who's maybe never heard a lot of 70s Priest. Now what we've got here is we've got number 11, 2005's Angel of Retribution. And yeah, again, a great album here. Great comeback album. Judas Rising. That's a track that just screams, hey, I'm back in the band, with Halford just jumping in. The Deal with the Devil. Incredible track. Revolution. Demonizer. Wheels of Fire. And then one of my favorites, probably my favorite off here, Hellrider. You could have just put that thing on Painkiller, but fit right in. Then you've got Angel, which is a cool ballad, and Loch Ness, it's all right. Not really my favorite long, epic Priest song or whatever that they like to tack on at the end, but I mean, it's okay. Definitely not one I'm a big fan of. But this is, you know, I did give this a lot of praise, and I'm not taking that praise away in my album review. But I mean, it does just kind of fall in the middle for me here as far as their discography. They got a lot of awesome, great albums. But yeah, this is definitely a solid album. Good return for Halford. Now we enter the top 10 with another controversial one. People usually either love it or hate it. I happen to love it, but I do have some problems I'll get into. Number 10, Turbo. 1986's Turbo. And, you know, I get it. There's a lot of the problems that people have with it are some of the ones I have. The synth situation isn't really an issue with me. But, you know, I used to put this thing up at like in my top 5, but over the years it's just kind of fallen slowly. But, you know, again, it's in my top 10, so it's not bad. I don't think it's great. Turbo Lover, big hit off here, but I like it. That's cool. Get you pumped up. Locked In's one of the best ones off here, easily. I mean, the vocal performance on here. Private Property is really good. Kind of anthemic, but I dig it. Parental Guidance, I like it, but I mean, it is a little corny. Not one I pop on a lot, but I mean, when it comes on to the album, I'm not, you know, I think it's pretty cool. I'm not complaining. Not really a fan of Rock You All Around the World or Wild Nights, Hard Crazy Days, Hot for Love, some of that stuff. But Out in the Cold on side 2, that open side 2, one of my favorite Priest songs, period. Like, oh. And you know, you might be wondering why I put this above Angel of Retribution, that I don't think has as many problems. But I think the great stuff on here kind of outweighs the good stuff. And I mean, the great stuff on here outweighs the bad on here. And the great stuff on here, I think, beats out some of the stuff on Angel of Retribution. So that's why I kind of put it over that. But yeah, I definitely, I've seen this at the bottom of people's lists. I've seen it near the top or even the top. I definitely throw it kind of right here in the middle. Great album. Number 9, their final 70s album that would kind of set their tone going into the 80s. Hellbent for Leather. 1979's Hellbent for Leather, or Killing Machine if you're from the UK. Love Delivering the Goods. One of my favorite Priest tracks. You got the title track here for the US, Hellbent for Leather. Man, these got a dark feel and really heavy tone, crunchy tone on here. Then you've got their cover of the Green Manalishi and the Two-Pronged Crown. Really cool cover, the Fleetwood Mac song. Then you've got the title track for the UK, Killing Machine. And, you know, Before the Dawn is a cool ballad, but there's maybe a couple filler on here, but this is a great album. This really set the tone of what they would become, I think. This was the one that was like, all right, we are into this heavy stuff now. I mean, right after this would come British Steel. But this is, oh man, every time I pop this on, I get hyped with that Delivering the Goods. Just kicks you in the gut. Anyways, number 8. Man, I'm telling you, these top 8 right here are they were so hard for me to rank. I went back and forth for a while. Number 8, we got 82's Screaming for Vengeance. And this was in my top 5 at one point while thinking of this list. But man, and this was my first Priest album I heard all the way through, so it's got a soft spot for me. And I just like some of the other ones better. The Hellion and Electric Eye. Man, that's an incredible, one of my favorite Priest songs. Riding on the Wind. Bloodstone, probably the best track off here. So heavy, man. Take These Chains, Pain and Pleasure. The title track. You've got Another Thing Coming's big hit off here, but I mean, again, not want to put on a lot, but when it gets to it on the album, near the end or whatever, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Fever's really cool, kind of slower one. Devil's Child, fast way to close it, but see, like, every song on there I genuinely like. This is a great freaking album. I think we're in masterpiece territory. I think Priest have a lot of, top 8 albums that I consider masterpieces. This is definitely one of them. Oh man, cannot say enough how much I love this album. And again, it was definitely hard to kind of scooch it below the top 5, but I like some of these other ones better. Anyways, right, number 7 here, we've got their second album, Sad Wings of Destiny. What a jump from Rock A Rolla to this. I mean, man, this album is a freaking masterpiece. And the more I listen to it, the more I love it. Victim of Changes is just one of the best songs, period, I've ever heard. The progginess and the heaviness and the deepness of the lyrics. And then, of course, Rob's vocals. The Ripper. Man, a Dreamer, Deceiver, and Deceiver. That's kind of a two-part situation there. That whole first side. And then you get the Tyrant on the other side and Epitaph. I mean, dude, this album is a freaking masterpiece. After I heard, at first I kind of thought this was all the 70s Priest stuff, because I heard Rock A Rolla. After I heard all the 80s stuff a long time ago, I was like, I'll give the 70s stuff a chance, and popped on Rock A Rolla, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like a lot of the 70s Priest, but this one made me reevaluate that, and then I just kept going. But this is one of my favorite Priest albums of all time. Really cool album cover. Just, man, I cannot get enough of this album. Then we've got, what is that now? Top 10 was 10, 9, 8, 7. Album number 6. We're almost at the top 5, but album number 6. 1978. Stained Class. Man, this one's a hard one to rank too. This one was also, I mean, look, it almost cracked top 5, and it was in top 5 at one point, but you want to talk about a masterpiece. The heaviness and the progginess, it's like that perfect mesh of it on here. And when I first heard this album a long time ago, I liked it, but it wasn't until I listened to it again a while back ago that I was like, oh my God, well, this thing ranks way higher than what I originally thought. Exciter. That's how you kick off a freaking album right there. And then White Heat Red Hot. Their cover of Better By You, Better Than Me. The title track's really cool. Not one of my favorites off there. Invader, not one of my favorites. Saints in Hell. Oh my God. That's one of my favorite Priest songs. And so is, oh my God, Beyond the Realms of Death. One of my favorite Priest songs, period. And one of my favorite songs, period. I mean, that is just an epic masterpiece. That's what this album's all about right here. I highly suggest people give this thing a listen if they've not heard 70s Priest. Like I said, the perfect blend of the heaviness and the progginess of the band. Now we're in top 5. Big controversy here. I know it, but you know, if you guys watch my album review, you know I really dig this thing. Ram It Down. Oh yeah, 1988's Ram It Down, I believe. My number 5. And you know, this thing, I know it's got the whole drum machine thing going on. With, you know, but I think it kind of adds a cool flavor to the album, you know, makes it stand out a little bit. Title track, incredible way to kick it off. I mean, literally the album kicks off with just Halford screaming. Heavy Metal, that's a freaking killer track. Love Zone's pretty cool. Come and Get It, oh, Hard as Iron, super hooky. Now one of my favorite Priest songs again here, Blood Red Skies. Oh my God. That is just, oh, that's one of the, like, that one's got a really proggy vibe to it too, and a big build-up. Really awesome vocal performance by Halford on there. Not the biggest fan of the Johnny B. Good cover. It's all right. It's pretty cool. Then, you know, I love the song Love You to Death. This is another masterpiece in my opinion, and I know a lot of people would disagree and put this probably near the bottom of their list, but I'm a big fan of Ram It Down. Ever since I first heard it, I was a big fan of it and wondered what the deal was with all the hate, and I guess it's just the drum machine thing. I don't know. But anyway, it's number 4. You got it right. Redeemer of Souls at number 4. My God. The more I listen to this album, the more I love it. I just, you know, 2014. I know this thing came out in 2014, so you're like, how could it be as good as some of their others? It just is, man. It's super heavy. The 2010s for Priest, the 2 albums they released there were just masterpieces. I mean, you've got Dragonaut, the title track, Halls of Valhalla. Man, that's one of my favorite songs. Sword of Damocles. March of the Damned. I love Crossfire. That's a heavy one, heavy riffing one. Then we've got you know, Secrets of the Dead. Is the dark vocals on here. This is just an incredible album. You gotta listen to it if you haven't. You gotta give Priest past the 2000s a chance, because I know their 2000 stuff really wasn't all that great. I mean, you had Angel of Retribution then, but the other 2 were not good. But this thing, their first album in the 2010s, is a masterpiece. Number 3 here. Again, very hard to rank. I had my number 4 and number 3 flopped here, but I kind of ended up having to go with number 3, Firepower, their most recent album, 2018. I said it was 2016 in my review video, but it's 2018 album. I mean, oh my God, this follows kind of the same feel of Redeemer of Souls, except almost with that classic feel to it thrown in there. Title track, Firepower, is incredible. Lightning Strike. Evil Never Dies. Sounds like a Painkiller track, man. Never the Heroes is good. Necromancer is freaking great. Children of the Sun. Oh my God. I love Rising from Ruins. Got a really cool drum beat to it. Spectre is one of my favorite freaking Priest songs ever. That song just, gives me the goosebumps just thinking about it. This album is an absolute masterpiece. First time I heard it, I thought it was, and I stand by it, of it being up here at number 3. I get people who maybe wouldn't want to rank it that high because it's more recent or whatever, but I'm just going by what I'm hearing, and this thing's number 3. Top 2, guys. If you know all the Priest albums, you know what it's down to, but number 2's going to 1990's Painkiller. My God, this album is so freaking good. I've always loved this thing. The title track, probably the biggest hit off this album, but for good reason. Super fast, super heavy. I mean, this thing borderline speed metal. Hell Patrol, All Guns Blazing, Leather Rebels, one of my favorites. Metal Meltdown's got a super hooky, catchy chorus while still being heavy. Nightcrawler, oh my God, one of my favorite Priest songs ever. The riff in that. Touch of Evil is probably, I mean, man, that's like in my top 5 Priest songs ever. That is a master. This thing is like the definition of heavy Priest, along with what my number 1 is. I just can't say enough about this album. Incredible album cover too. But yep, we're here, guys. Number 1. This is the definition of Priest right here. Defenders of the Faith. This one's been my number 1 for the longest time, and I've questioned it before, but I can't help it. I go back to it. This has the mixture of, I mean, it's got them long proggy songs, but they're heavy. 1984, this came out right after the success of Screaming for Vengeance. Free Will Burning, super fast. And again, this is a track that sounds like it could be on Painkiller, as fast as it is, especially in that breakdown. Jawbreaker. You got Rock Hard, Ride Free, really cool riff. The Sentinel is one of my favorite songs of all time. Love Bites is really cool. Eat Me Alive, another big, heavy one that could have been on Painkiller. Some Heads Are Gonna Roll is a good groove one. Night Comes Down is the slower one. I wouldn't call it a ballad, but it's kind of the slower one with the super hooky chorus and verse and all that. Then Heavy Duty and Defenders of the Faith are a super cool way to close it out with like the chant of "We Are the Defenders of the Faith" going on. This is the masterpiece album here, one of my favorite albums of all time. Probably an album I'd take like on like a desert island, pick 5 albums to take. This would definitely be one of them. But anyways, guys, thanks so much for sticking through here for all these months for this Judas Priest album review series. And I'm going to go ahead and announce the next bands we're going to be looking at. It's not a metal band this time. I'm going to change it up because I'm a big fan of 80s synth pop. We're going to be looking at the band Mr. Mister. All right, it won't take us long. They've only got 4 albums, but I'm pretty hyped to do something that's a little bit different from the metal stuff that I've done with Dio and Judas Priest. We're going to take kind of a different route here. Maybe do a little bit of a shorter discography. But anyways, thanks so much, guys, and stay tuned for those, and comment your rankings, or let me know, like, if you don't want to do all of the rankings, let me know, like, your top 5 or something. Thanks again, guys.